7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Discussing everything about the afterlife and spirit world. Coming to you all the way from Ireland. It's Sandie Byrne.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Life After Life with me, Sandie Byrne. So in today's episode, we're a week away from Christmas at the time of releasing this episode, and I'm very conscious that grief is very heavy at this time of year. So I have invited Elizabeth Caplin, who is a hypnotherapist, onto the show to talk to us today. And welcome to the podcast, Elizabeth. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Sandy. I'm delighted to be here.
So amazing. Now, I first met Elizabeth earlier this year at an event in Dublin. And recently I reached out to her because I've been suffering a lot with overwhelm. And, you know, everybody that's been listening to the program for a while, you know, I talk about my PTSD and my anxieties and stuff like that. And I have to say that Elizabeth has helped me so much. So we got chatting, and I asked her would she come on and talk to us about grief and how hypnotherapy can help and all of that kind of stuff. So first of all, as usual, because I always, Elizabeth, ask people this at the top of the show, because I always like people to know that, you know, we weren't born helping people. We didn't come out of the womb hypnotizing people or any of that kind of stuff. So would you mind if I asked you about your background? How did you get into hypnotherapy? Where did it come from?
Okay, so I've from so many years and years ago, like I always knew I was fascinated with the mind. I had a brother that suffered a lot with mental health issues. So he was a lot older than me and I was younger, but I always had a fascination, like, you know, why is somebody different than somebody else? And then I never had the opportunity maybe to go down that road, being a child of the 60s and, you know, farming background and all of that. So I got married at 23 and as you do, you're madly in love with somebody, and then things didn't go the way I wanted it to go through my marriage. So after 20 years plus of being married, I had to decide to walk away from that marriage. So my eldest daughter was 16 and my youngest daughter was 12. And it was a decision that I made with a very heavy heart, but it was a toxic relationship and I held on for years. And I lived abroad for 10 years. So I left in 1999 and I was coming back to Ireland, which was very difficult. So coming back to Ireland with literally the clothes on our back and 3 suitcases and starting from scratch again. So I went down, dark road. I had this exterior where everybody thought I was okay on the outside. I always showed up okay. I always showed up with the makeup on and the hair done and the clothes and whatever, but on the inside I was broken. Like I felt completely broken, as like a failure, or, you know, people talk about grief, but grief is so much more even than the loss of a loved one. It can be the loss of grieving a marriage, grieving a job, grieving the loss of a future that I thought I had, and all of that. So I always had a self-help book on my nightstand, and I always was fascinated with just different things, just, you know. So years went by, fast forward years, and my daughters left home and they went away off to live back where we lived before, believe it or not. And loneliness set in then. Loneliness and another kind of grief kind of set in. So I had studied psychology years ago, but I was in the marriage then and I was with somebody who didn't want me to grow, who didn't like the self-help books, who didn't like that side, you know. So it was all, I kind of studied hush hush nearly. And so now I had the opportunity to go down that route again. Long story, getting longer. But I was going to work and then coming home, and like I said, like loneliness was setting in, and I knew this is not the way I wanted to go all through my life. I wanted to expand my brain and get into possibly the psychology. So I went online and I found an online course that I could do and submit, you know, all my assignments and everything. So I just got engrossed in it. So I studied psychology and I studied counselling. And I would come home from work. I would put up the computer. I was like, I'd be just gone with this studying and understanding my brain and understanding just so much about what makes us tick. And I would like just all of a sudden be like, oh my God, I still have my coat on. It's dark outside. I hadn't eaten. And that's where I just knew this is me. This is where I need to be. And then I, for some reason, read an article where it said 6 sessions of hypnotherapy was equivalent to 600 sessions of talk therapy. And I was like, what?
What?
What? Because hypnotherapy is rapid, Sandie, right? So it's rapid. Okay. So there I am, like trying to find where can I learn this magic, and found a course that I could do in Dublin. I went every second or third weekend at the time, and in a group of people. And in that training, the trainer, she took me up to the top of the class, and she did a hypnotherapy session on me at the time. That, oh my goodness, because hypnotherapy is all visualization and relaxation. And it brought me back so many. It was like my life just was like, it was like rewind. And I understand it all now. And I released so much, and I released the heaviness, and I released the sadness, and I let everything go. And I stopped living in the past, and I stopped being regretful. And it was incredible what that one session did for me. And then every time we went for training, we worked like on each other. And the growth that I had through that training was incredible. And I started seeing clients through that training because because the work I was doing before, I was doing it, I said, I just need to do it for myself. If I'm feeling better and I can help my girls feel better after everything we've gone through, well, then this will be just worth everything. But then when I saw how well I felt and how like depression lifted, how anxiety lifted, how overwhelm lifted, I was like, I need to bring this to more people. And at that stage, I was helping people in their homes, and then COVID hit, and then everything went online. And online is so amazing, Sandie, because the person can be in their own chair, in their own bed, and they don't have to drive or do anything, and they're in the comfort of their own home. And we do a lot of anchoring, a lot of positivity, and a lot of confidence in all this. We do all these anchoring, so you can when people would come and they'd sit in the chair like after a session, and they might sit in this chair, their chair, and they'd feel all the goodness and all the positivity and all the things that had happened through the session, rather than coming to a clinical setting and then feeling okay there, but going home where maybe the anxiety and the overwhelm is. They were getting the benefit of being at home. So that's, I'm so passionate about it. I've trained in so many, like I've gone down routes of so many different things. I bring so many like modalities to my sessions. It's not all hypnotherapy. I think I'm a hypnotherapist with a twist, because I do mindset coaching as well. And yeah, it's just been amazing. It's not only helped me, my girls, our mindsets are so different now. I'm a very future focused. I don't keep people stuck in the past at all. I bring them,
That's so important.
I give them hope. I bring them forward. I bring them out of the darkness, literally, because I feel everybody that comes to me, because I might go through their shoes, but I've gone through loss. I've gone through, loss of parents, change from country, everything, loss of different things. And I know what they're going through. I feel their pain, but I also know that we can shift from pain into a different way of life, and it's mindset. It's so much of it is all in our mind, because our mind's very powerful, and our mind can be our friend or our foe. It can drive us down and can keep us stuck. Like, I was the person that was in bed in the mornings. I didn't want to get out of bed in the mornings. I've all the feelings and all those experiences. And I know that, and I would say this to so many people, that I know that hypnotherapy not only changed my life, but it actually saved my life. I know that hand on heart, that's what it did.
And that's very powerful. And don't apologize for your story being long, because, you don't know the people that are listening to this that are going, oh my God, that's where I am now, or that's what I've been through, or that's what I'm going through, or that's what I'm heading into. Like, maybe they're coming to the end of a relationship, maybe they're, coming to the end of a job, maybe they're moving to a different town, a different country, whatever they're doing. So there's so many people that are going through change, and life is changing. Life, over the last 5-6 years has changed so much for everybody. So don't ever apologize for your story, because people are resonating with it. And if something helped you, it can also help them. The other thing that I was thinking, while you were talking there is, and I know this from a personal perspective, if I'm going through something, I don't really want to explain it all to my doctor or to my therapist or whatever. I want to go to somebody who knows I know what you're talking about. I want somebody who understands the perspective that I'm coming from, and that's an edge that you have as well. So, that was a very personal story. So thank you for sharing it with us. And, I've read about you. I looked, obviously, and I know you talk about breaking free from stress and anxiety and, overwhelm, the mindset, the weight loss, like all of these things are things that you do with people. But today, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about grief, because the majority of people that listen to my podcast, they're grieving the loss of somebody. And, so I wanted to ask you, how can hypnotherapy support somebody who's grieving, or can it?
Oh yes, it can, because it provides a safe space, Sandie, for individuals to process their emotions, such as sadness, guilt, or anger, and it helps release pent-up feelings, allowing them to work through their grief without being overwhelmed. It's just so powerful. Individuals can revisit memories in a controlled, supportive way.
Okay.
And this helps them reframe those memories, reducing the intensity of pain. Yeah.
And so I'm just thinking of a lot of the things that people talk to me about, and this is probably what you're talking about. So people that maybe, that their consistent memory is somebody that's ill before death, and they're not thinking about the person when they were alive and they were well and they were happy, or maybe that you missed out saying goodbye to somebody, maybe somebody left suddenly, or maybe you had an argument with somebody before they passed. Can hypnotherapy help with that kind of pain?
Oh yes, it can, because I help people reframe things. I can bring them through techniques that when they look back on the past, the pain has dissolved, the pain has dissipated, the memory is still there, but that pain, that pain that your heart is literally broken.
Yeah.
that pain has dissolved, because with hypnotherapy, without even people realizing, because it's eyes closed work, they can revisit times, and it's not painful. Because I think when we go through grief, we think we're doing the person a disservice, or we're disrespecting them by letting them go. But these beautiful people that were in our lives and that we loved would never want us to stay stuck forever. They want us to let go. Hypnotherapy can allow that process. You can literally go back and have conversations with these people and say goodbye to them and everything in the safe space of hypnotherapy. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I love that. Yeah, and it's so important, first of all, that people have that safe space to talk. But I think it's important, and we were having this conversation before we started recording, because I was asking Elizabeth, because recently she made a recording for me, and she makes a personalized recording that you have and you can listen back to. And I said to her that I fall asleep listening to it. But Elizabeth, you were explaining to me as well that that's fine too, because first of all, obviously I'm feeling safe and I'm feeling relaxed enough to do that. But also that you're working with the subconscious. It's not the conscious mind. So can you explain to people how that works? Because I'm probably paraphrasing here.
No. So we have a conscious mind and we have a subconscious mind. So in the conscious mind is like me and you were chatting here. The subconscious mind can only hold on to 5 to 7 pieces of information at the one time. The subconscious mind holds everything from the day we were born, if not before. And that's where all the programs and all the traumas and all the grief and everything is all stored down there in the subconscious mind. So I'm kind of like the electrician that, goes in and works with the subconscious mind. So when somebody is listening to a recording, and I have a gift of a beautiful recording for your listeners that I'll tell you about later, the magic, as I would say, is happening within the subconscious mind, because that's where everything is programmed. It's like, it's hard to say that, I hate to say this, and I don't say this disrespectfully or anything, but we can have a habit of grieving. So it's like a habit of driving in a car, and a habit of riding a bicycle, or the habit of going to the gym, or like you, a habit of running. And we're not born with anything, like you said before. We're only born with a fear of loud noises and a fear of falling. Everything else is learned. So every habit that we have is learned, good or bad. So we can get into a habit of something. In the beginning, it's conscious, but after time, it drops into the subconscious. So you can get into the habit of doing something over and over again, whether it's, being sad, being depressed, being anxious. I say people don't have anxiety, because people say, oh, I am anxious, but that's putting a label on it. You do anxiety. Oh. You do grief. You do all these things. So when you can do them, you can undo them. So the subconscious can undo all these things. And hypnotherapy through guided visualization can override all these habits that you've gotten into for years and years and years. And settle the part of the brain that's called the amygdala, because the amygdala is where it's the fight and flight and freeze mode is. So when it gets charged, it will send off the signals of grief or anxiety. Hypnotherapy and self-hypnosis as well, which I help people learn self-hypnosis, so it calms the amygdala, so you're not triggering the responses all the time. So I hope I answered that question. I'm not sure.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. And it makes so much sense, because I I know, especially like for me, when I start talking about my grief, and I had something going on recently, and I was talking to somebody this morning, and I mentioned my loved one who had passed, and he's passed a long time, but I actually got all teared up talking about it. So like when I go to hypnotherapy and I'm trying to explain to you or somebody or whatever, like what's going on for me, I get upset, and then I feel like I'm not engaging. But it's important for people to know that even if you are upset in the conscious mind, that your subconscious is still engaged. So you're still going to get benefit of it. You know, so it's so important. And have you ever noticed, now I know I'm coming at this from a spiritual side, but you know, if people are doing hypnotherapy and they're kind of, do you call it going under, where kind of you talk them into a state of relaxation? I don't know what the term is. But when people are kind of in that relaxed state, do they ever feel a connection with their loved one? Has that ever happened?
Oh, 100%. Like
Wow.
I can give an example of
Oh, please.
how, and this is for myself. So after my I'll give how hypnotherapy how I changed so much in years. Now, my dad died when I was 21, and I thought I would never smile again. I can still remember that grief. I thought I'd never laugh, I'd never smile, I'd never be happy. Like that grief consumed me for a long time. I was the youngest of 8 children. He was just such a beautiful man, and I felt that he left me. It was just so sudden, and I just thought, life is just, that's it. It's over. And then years later, like I could barely talk like that about my dad. Couldn't even.
Oh,
Years later. And then my mama died when she was 96, and I was I was into the hypnotherapy then. When I say, Sandie, the difference in how I dealt with both deaths was enormous. Mama was such an important person in my life, and I had a lovely, gorgeous relationship with her. But how I dealt with her death was on another level, because how I was able to understand the power of my mind, and how I was able to, like in the mornings, and this is something your listeners could do, before I got out of bed in the mornings, I would close my eyes just before I got out, and I would bring back memories of Mama, of being a child and running home from school and going into the kitchen and smelling the bread, and, you know, a warm dinner on the table, and just the love and warmth that I had. So I'd lie in bed and I'd bring all these beautiful memories. And then your mind would skip to, you know, me seeing her cycling on the bicycle, and all these lovely memories would come, where before I, like say with Dada, I would have been like crying in the mornings, where with Mama I understood how important it was. Bring in the good memories, bring back that, bring that all into you, and just let it flow all over your body. And then what I did was I'd surround myself with like this big bubble, a protective bubble, and inside there were these beautiful memories, and only love inside this bubble, and then no sadness or anything could come into me. And I would bring this through my day, and it was the most beautiful thing. I felt I was untouchable then. And like I said, the difference, how I processed at a 21, and then in my 50s when Mama died. And it was enormous, and I know that it was because of hypnotherapy. And even myself and my own immediate family have gone through something really hard of late, and only for myself and my girls have a really good mindset now, I would be back in the bed. I'd be full of anxiety, and I understand how important that how important it is to understand your mind. Like, I do a lot of mindset work with people. I'm very geeky, and I like to let them know exactly what happens within their brain when they're feeling this way or that way, or why this is happening. And when they realize that, then they realize that they're not broken. Like, I used to think I was broken. They realize they're not broken. Mm-hmm. The things I teach people, you'd never be taught in school. And when they realize they're not broken, and they just need to reframe things, to look at things differently, then their life changes like mine did.
Isn't it amazing? And it sounds, when you say it, it sounds simple. I know there's a process there, but like, I think so many of us walk around with like guilt hanging over us like a dark cloud, you know, and we have to let it go at some point. So, you know, but you have to take action to do that. Can I ask you, and I know I'm taking up a lot of your time now, so I appreciate it. What can people expect? Because we hear the word hypnotherapy, we hear it, you know, bandied around. And like, what can they expect? Like, do you do in-person sessions or online sessions? And what could people expect from those sessions?
Okay, so I do online sessions. And what do people expect? Even from one session, people will feel calmer, more relaxed, more in control. A lot of people think, oh, hypnosis, they think of stage hypnosis, but that's all entertainment. The reason why there's therapy on the end of hypnotherapy is that it's a completely different modality. They will expect they'll expect shifts. They'll expect to feel differently. They'll expect that brokenness there to, you know, to their heart will heal. That's the way I like to think. Like, their heart will start to heal. They'll think like me when I was 21, that my heart was broken and I thought it would never heal. But your heart will heal, and hypnotherapy can give that. Like, it fosters self-forgiveness, and it helps them to understand their feelings are a natural part of grieving, because we never stop grieving. We just need to figure out another way of living, because we have to keep living, for not just for ourselves, but for the people that love us. And we're doing a disservice to the people that love us dearly by not being given the most of ourselves to them. You know, like hypnotherapy, it reinforces coping mechanisms, and it instills hope and strength, and it empowers individuals to like navigate their grief. And it helps them equip themselves, Sandie, to move forward with their lives.
Okay, I love that. And I'm also thinking of the like practical aspects of it, because I know when I was doing hypnotherapy, I brought my husband with me because I was afraid of being hypnotized, you know, somebody taking advantage or me doing something stupid or whatever, and I wanted somebody there with me. So I suppose I'm thinking of the logistical side of it. Like, should somebody be on their own? Are you going to put them into, you know, a hypnotized state? Should they be somewhere where they can lie down? You know, like, what's the expectation? What should people expect?
So once they're in an area where they're comfortable, like I would have clients, Sandie, that actually they're so low and so depressed and so everything that they don't even want to show up on camera. And I can work with somebody that doesn't even show up on camera.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
So, and they can, once they're just comfortable in where they are, and not to be afraid of hypnosis, because our subconscious mind runs 95% of everything we do every day. We're in hypnosis 95% of the time. So you get out of bed in the same way every morning. You brush your teeth, you comb your hair, you make the coffee in the same way. You drive your car, and you might know exactly where you're going, but like you're listening to something on the radio, you're talking to a friend, you're looking around, and you pass your exit or you pass where you're going. This is all trance. We're all in a trance every day of the week. Trance is hypnosis. We're all hypnotized. We're hypnotized by social media. We're hypnotized by the TV. We're hypnotized by the radio. What I like to think is I actually de-hypnotize people, believe it or not.
So clever. Yeah.
I de-hypnotize people because they're hypnotized. You go into a movie and you're in the darkness and, you know, the lights are out and you're engrossed in the movie, and then your friend or whatever goes, you know, Elizabeth or something, and you jump out of it. Well, you've been in a trance that whole time. You're believing everything, this love story or this murder or whatever, and you're just in a trance. That is the only thing about hypnotherapy, is you are in more control than you ever are. You're in more control. You're not in less control. You don't lose control at all. I know that I am in more control of my life now than I ever was my whole entire life, when I was in a position where I gave away my control, where I allowed somebody else to have control of my life.
Yeah.
Hypnotherapy has given me back control of my life, and I everything I need is in here.
That's such a clever way to look at it.
Are out there expecting, I'll be happy when I get a new car, I'll be happy when I get a new job, happy when I get a new partner, and they're looking for the external. When you can turn it all in, when you can have inner peace, when you can have stillness, the outside world doesn't matter. You could be living in a shed and you'll still be happy.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So look, I know I'm taking up a lot of your time and we're running over here.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Before we finish up, because we are, you know, just a week to Christmas, and so many people are, you know, they're dreading the Christmas season. Okay, they're dreading that empty place at the table. It doesn't matter if it's 6 months, 6 years, 16 years. We still dread, you know, that empty space at the table, the feeling of grief, of guilt, of overwhelm, all of those things. You know, what can people do? Or is there anything, without, you know, attending a session just before Christmas, is there anything that people can do to alleviate some of that worries or some of that stresses? Can you share with us? Now, you said you have a recording for us. Maybe this is going to help people a little bit.
Yes, this will help people a great bit. So I've created a special hypnosis recording just for your listeners.
Wow.
Designed to bring comfort and relief, you know, to those navigating Christmas and the journey of grief, obviously. So it's 25 minutes and it will guide you. I'm just making sure I get it all. I've written it all down here. But it'll guide you towards releasing emotional pain, okay? Fostering self-compassion, and helping you find moments of peace. So they'll be able to get that through, I'll send it to you, or it's like elizabethcaplin.ie/Sandie/Byrne, correct? And they'll get free access to that. So that will help. Now, I didn't want to... I was thinking of breathing exercises and that, and then I just thought of something which will help them in the moment while driving a car or in the shopping centre or sitting at a table, and nobody will even know you're doing it. So the lungs, Sandie, are connected to grief.
Okay.
That's why we're like, you know, it's all of this.
Yeah.
So, and the ring finger, believe it or not, is connected to the lungs. Goes right to the lungs. So if you clasp your ring finger, and anybody even that's listening to that, if you clasp your ring finger, listen to this now, ring finger until you feel a pulse. And you'll feel that pulse. And if you don't feel the pulse, don't worry, because you can actually activate a pulse by, you know, doing that. And activate a pulse by doing that. And just hold that for a few seconds. And what happens when you do this is this discharges the negative emotions in the body. And you'll actually, I can actually feel it there. You'll actually feel your shoulders releasing. You'll get a sense of, and this helps you feel better.
Wow.
You can use this while
For the people who are just listening to the audio, so when Elizabeth is saying just do this, we're literally just holding our ring finger on our left hand, literally just putting our other fingers all around it from top to bottom, and just holding it for a few seconds. And, you know, I can feel the pulse in mine. And that's what she's saying when she's saying do this. So literally just hold that finger for a few seconds.
Yeah, because it will release the chemicals from your brain to relax the body. Wow. And it will help you in the moment. So you could do that. You could have a room full of people and you're starting to fresh. You can do that under the table. When you're driving your car, you could do it when you're driving your car, when you're standing in a shopping line, anywhere. Yeah. It's simple. It's effective. I use it myself. I've used it. I don't use it as much, but I'll still use it. It's the one I go to. And yeah. That's it's so simple and so powerful, and that's what I help people with. Simple, powerful techniques.
That's amazing. Oh, thank you so much for that, because that's definitely something that I am going to use going forward. 100%. And is that where, and I know this is a little bit off topic, but with the cladder ring, the Irish cladder ring, we always wear it, and we talk about the connection to the heart. So I suppose that's the same thing. It's connected to the heart, the lungs, they're all interconnected. So I suppose that's the connection as well.
It is the connection. Like there's the fingers are, because I brought it up so that I'd make sure. So if you're worried, you hold your thumb.
Hold your thumb, okay. So in your opposite fist, just hold your thumb.
Yeah. If you notice a child, what do when they're upset? They suck on their thumb. They naturally know that this soothes them.
Wow, I've never thought of that.
So the next finger is fear.
Okay.
So your index finger is fear. The next finger is anger.
Okay, anger.
The next finger, as we said, is grief.
Okay.
And then the next finger, believe it or not, helps with sore throats. Small finger. Yeah. And it calms the nerves and brings laughter. Because it does, the pinky finger brings laughter.
Yeah.
So the hand is very powerful. All the meridians are all there. And the hand is very, very, very powerful.
Wow. Okay, so, I'm glad I asked, because that's so interesting, and I wish I'd known that. I mean, I suffered with sore throats for years and years and years, and my stress is directly, even though I've had the tonsils and everything out, even when I'm stressed, I would still get a sore throat. So it's so interesting knowing that. I love that. So guys, there's a small technique that you can do, and as Elizabeth's saying, you can be in a restaurant, you can be in a pub, you can be anywhere, but if you're feeling stressed, overwhelmed, you need to kind of ground yourself. Hold your ring finger. Okay, hold on to that ring finger. Mm-hmm. And I will put the link in the show notes attached here, so you can download the recording that Liz is very kindly giving us. Now, I know that we've talked a lot in this episode, Liz, about the grief, because obviously that's kind of, the topic of the podcast. But you do a lot of other things. You talked about mindset, you talked about overwhelm, stress, anxiety, you even do weight loss. Okay, so there's a lot of strings to Liz's bow. So if you're going through something, if you're listening and you're going through something that we haven't discussed here today, reach out to Liz and ask her if this is something that she can help with, because she's very approachable, guys, 100%, and she's very active on social media also. So I'm going to put the links to her website, to her social media, to the download, everything in the show notes here attached, okay? So please do get in contact with Liz. If there's anything else, I mean, obviously we've talked a lot about the grief and everything else, but there's lots of other things that you're going through. If Liz can help you, she will tell you that. If she can't, she will tell you that also. She's very, very honest and very, very helpful. Liz, thank you so much for your time. I've loved the conversation and I've learned so much, And the one thing, if I just mention it before we leave, is this whole feeling of guilt. I've walked around my whole life feeling guilty about everything. And while you were talking about, your dada there, I just remembered something. And I talk a lot in my life about Kevin, who died. But what a lot of people don't know is that, before Kevin died, my granddad, who I say was the love of my life, he passed away. He had cancer and he was sick for a while and he passed away. And that only 10 weeks later, then Kevin had his accident and he died. And Kevin was only 31. And I grieved so hard and so long for Kevin that when I was an adult, and it was about 25 years later, I only started to grieve for my granddad then. And then the guilt kicked in because, oh my God, I spent all these years grieving for Kevin and I forgot about my poor granddad, who is the love of my life. You know, so like, guys, grief comes from a lot of different places and it can hit you. It might not hit you in the days, weeks or months after a passing or after an incident. It can be delayed. It can be way down the road. But don't ignore it when it raises its ugly head, because it won't go away by itself. You have to deal with it. Okay, so please, guys, do reach out. There's plenty of people out there who can get the help, and Liz has been helping me with that more recently, so I'll never be able to thank her enough for that. So guys, thank you so much, Liz, and hopefully we will meet you in a future episode of the podcast. We might have you on again down the road. I'd love that. And for those of you listening, guys, have a great Christmas. Okay, talk to your loved ones, be honest with yourselves about what you're going through. Okay, but try and enjoy the Christmas, be present in the moment, and set a place at the table for your loved one if that's going to help you. Okay. Guys, have an amazing Christmas. I will talk to you afterwards, and thank you so much for listening. Until the next time, take care and stay safe.
Discussing everything.